didn't seem to have much of an identity in the way that we were actually trying to play. I mean, people will turn around and say what happened with Ange Postecoglou a couple of years ago when he was kind of bedding in and we had that horrendous away run. You could at least see a style of play that he was trying to implement. You felt you had an idea of how the team was going about things. I felt on Saturday, Mark, looking at it, we didn't have that sort of identity. It felt like one of those games where after about an hour, you were beginning to think this could end up petering out as a 0-0. And I just wonder when you're looking at all of this with Celtic, going through the transition of changing manager, obviously going for a new style of play. Have you seen enough yet from what Brendan has actually brought to the table in terms of his tactics that would make you think this was the right thing to be doing at this stage? Because granted, he's going to be looking for a few more of his own players in. We know that. But with the players he has, obviously have their own identity and their own way of playing. They're still kind of stuck in their ways, I feel, with Ange Postecoglou, as well. Was Brendan Rodgers perhaps a bit too quick to try and change the style if he doesn't feel he has the players there? Because quite honestly, to me, there just didn't seem to be anything going in that match that made me think we were going to score a goal. I don't know what your thoughts were on the overall sort of game plan and tactics that were deployed by Rodgers on Saturday. But where did you kind of stand with all of that?
Well, it's a lot to take in, Jono, to be honest with you. You mentioned chess there. It was more like a game of Kaplunk, to be quite honest with you, mate. I don't really know where to start with it all. And again, you mentioned identity. I think we're identifying as East Stirlingshire this season because there seems to be no structure to that team whatsoever. It seemed to be, I was looking at how we were breaking away and we were getting the balls relatively quickly out of Joe Hart was kind of speeding things up at certain points in the first half. He was giving the ball to Liam Scales. He was walking 15 yards with the ball and then allowing their defence to settle and then they would make a backward pass. It just seemed a bit higgledy-piggledy, quite honest with you. I didn't see what they were trying to do. I noticed it in the Ross County game and it's fair to say, Jono, I think you were at the game on Saturday and I think you can see more of what's actually happening when you're at the stadium. You can see what's going on more and it just seemed to be like, to me, in the game I've watched so far, it's if the backward pass isn't on, look for a long ball. And if that's not on, just play it sideways. It just seems to be, Rodgers mentioned it himself, that there's no intensity by the players. I think the players are actually hiding behind the off-the-field issues and the management changeover. I think there's a lot of poor performers in the team, none more so than the captain. And a lot of them are hiding behind this cloak of anger that the Celtic fans have got just now. And it's all in every other direction other than the players. People are mentioning Rodgers, they're mentioning the board, they're mentioning the system. Nobody is mentioning the players. And I think as a football player playing for Celtic, I don't think being skillful or being able to put the ball in the back of the net necessarily makes you a Celtic player. It's what you do when times are more difficult and your mentality to pull yourself through that. And I'll go back to it. I mean, I look at Callum McGregor and he's a 7 out of 10 every week, and he's a brilliant player in a 5-0 winning game. But I can count one hand the last couple of years when he's been dragging teams through a rough patch, Jono. I've said before, I think he's a fantastic football player. He's been a good captain for Celtic. But I don't think being a captain at Celtic gives you a carte blanche to put in performances like we're seeing for this guy. And all I'm seeing is excuses after excuses. I was looking at the play the other day there, and even when the intensity was stepping up, the players who were receiving the ball weren't stepping up. I thought Matt O'Reilly, I think his stat padding is amongst him and Leo Abada are probably the two biggest stat padders I've ever seen at Celtic. The stats tell a different story for the reality. And I must admit, I got picked up to go to the game at 1:45, and if I hadn't arranged my lift already and I seen that team sheet, John, I must admit I probably wouldn't have liked the match, mate. I left after 50 minutes, 52, 53 minutes. I think we got a corner kick and I just went like, I'm away, just stood up and left. I mean, there's nothing happening here. And it's not like me to do that. Not very often that I've left that early in the match. I just knew nothing was happening. I think we could have been playing till New Year's, mate, and still not seen it. It doesn't make me less a fan, but I just thought on Saturday morning that there was absolutely no hope of Celtic putting in a performance that was going. In fact, if you actually look at the first minute of the match, Jono, I don't know if you were in your seat early enough, but the very first minute of the match, the ball was played to scales, and the first thing Celtic decided today was put their wide men running forward, and the first instinct of Liam Scales was to play the ball backwards. And I said that again against Kilmarnock. I genuinely think if we'd a penalty kick, that we would have passed the ball backwards. That is the way it looks to me now. I don't know if Brendan Rodgers has been shafted a bit with the players as well, because I feel like they're getting away with murder just now, and I think there's a wee bit of there's disconnects, or I think there's a disconnect between the fan base, the manager. I think there's a disconnect between the board and the manager at certain levels, and I certainly feel like there's an unwillingness by some of the players to fit into Brendan Rodgers' system. I think there's guys in that team who can perform at a much higher level. Kyogo aside, I think Kyogo, you can see he's learning that position. He's dropping a lot deeper and he's trying to get involved. But again, he was an empty jersey the other day. There, he put one by the post, Jono, if you remember, and that's all he did. What I seen, and I just think that when we're going to look at the formations, one thing, the setups another thing as well. But I think if we're going to start to just look beyond that smoke screen, mate, because there's a lot of excuses getting made for the players just now. Nobody can tell me that Cam McGregor can't hear a man behind him because he's been changed position. That man's getting caught on the ball almost every time he's on the ball. Nobody can tell me that Greg Taylor's first instinct is to pass the ball backwards rather than pass the ball forward. He's to know how to take a man on. And Daizen Maeda, for talk's sake, he's hitting shots and it's landing in the Green Brigade section.
We're in the Green Brigade.
Yeah, that's 20 yards out, mate. And I thought Yang was only better. Yang was, if there was one bit of encouragement the other day, that it was Yang. I thought he looked like almost Jota.
He was direct.
Is that?
He was direct. I felt he was direct, Yang. I thought he was trying to make something happen. In fairness, but I felt there was so much of a lack of creativity. It's like you kind of were saying there. I think a lot of the time the ball was getting played to Lagerbielke, and he's fairly new, and it's actually him who's having to try and find the defence splitting passes because nobody else was going to take responsibility.
Sorry, Jono. I just feel like Lagerbielke. I read all his, probably the same as you did, mate. I read all his profile when he signed for Celtic, and I went, one thing that stands out is he's a long ball expert. That's what I thought. That's why he's been brought. The guy can't pass 4 yards, Jono. His passing is. He's either no used to players being able to step in and lead his passes, or he's too nervous to make the right pass, because if the guy makes a pass, it's getting intercepted time after time. I would rather he just took a step out of that situation and played the easy pass than cop out and make an easy pass look difficult and hit the bottom opposition player. Sometimes when you see a pass being cut out, you'll see people in the stands clapping at the vision that somebody try to make the pass, and then I think he's hiding behind that as well, because he's passing, and you've seen it at Rugby Park. It was the amount of times he cut inside, Jono, played the ball in, and it was just gone directly. And I heard the excuses last week that he's not used to that level of pitch, he's not used to this, not used to that. The fact of the matter is, you don't forget how to pass a ball because you're playing a different system or you're playing a different country. There's no player this season that can look their face in the mirror and say they've earned their wages, mate. And before you even talk about the board or talk about Rodgers' style, I think our players, and I've already said that, I think our captain's get away with murder, mate. I think he is getting away with murder. And I'm going to say this, might light up the switchboards. I think if there's ever a case to drop Cam McGregor, it'd be just now, because I think he's an empty jersey, mate. And just because you've got a yellow band around your shirt doesn't mean you're immune to criticism. I feel as if that guy gets away with a lot of things. A lot of shoddy performances, and just because he's a captain, he's a 7 out of 10 most weeks. And when you actually scrutinise his actual contribution to the match, Jono, it's very rare that he grabs a team the scruff of the neck. I think Aberdeen last season and Ibrox 2 years ago. Ibrox, I think it was a 2-1 game, and Aberdeen at Pittodrie.
7th minute winner,
yeah, and it's only 2 games. Forget about goals, probably the only 2 games that I thought he put us through that. And fair dues, you can say he's probably not to do that quite a lot because Celtic are winning matches, but it's because Celtic had match winners. And see when Celtic are struggling, you very rarely see Cam McGregor. In fact, first half an hour of the match, there was an obvious throw-in to Celtic. Camathis and Johnson players' legs. There wasn't one Celtic player running about that referee. And I said to Alec next to me, I went, see if that was Rangers. Look back to last week with that penalty kick we should have caught. They released a statement about that. We just roll over and take every decision. That throw-in Why is none of why is your captain not talking to that referee? Why is only people on the stand protesting and protecting the club's best wishes, best interest on the park as the fans? Half of that stadium was up in their arms about that, and it was the most obvious throw-in to Celtic ever. And these mistakes happen. It wasn't the referee's fault. Sometimes you miss them, but the players just rolled over and accepted it, and that's the sort of thing that Cam McGregor should have been visual, because see if you put 1% doubt in the referee's mind the next time he tries to just get a decision, then you've won that battle, mate. Because I tell you one thing, I don't like to talk about that more, but they want decisions that aren't their way. Now, I mean, when decisions go against them that should go their way, Jono, they blow up like a cheap rocket. Celtic at board level don't do it. Our manager seems a bit too relaxed to be getting into arguments with referees. Our players don't certainly back each other up, and the captain doesn't back the players up either. I've noticed that a few times. There's no fight for each other. It seems to be all a bit like I don't know. It's just a bit.
The players all just look a bit of a mess. That's exactly what the word I was going to use as well. It's a mess. The players don't seem to really fully grasp what their jobs are. I don't feel at the moment. I don't know if there's still a sort of hangover from Ange leaving the building. Obviously, with Brendan's tactics getting deployed, I don't know if that was the smartest thing to necessarily be doing until he's got his own players in. I do wonder if he should have perhaps stuck with how Ange Postecoglou had kind of set the team up until he got his own players in, and almost kind of having that sort of period like what happened with Lenny, when Lenny took over from Brendan a few years back, and he kind of just ran it the same way as Brendan Rodgers did up until the end of that season. It wasn't pretty, but it got the job done. I don't also know, Mark, as well, how much of the blame falls on the players and how much falls on the manager at this point, because I think if you were to do a snap poll outside Celtic Park after Saturday, I think the majority of fans would probably put the blame at the manager's door already, which goes back to the sort of controversial nature of the appointment, if you like. There was a few people up in my section that were up in arms at full time, calling him a rat, etc. The usual sort of stuff everyone could foresee. Yeah, the sort of usual thing you can foresee happening, though, when results weren't going to go our way early on, with Brendan Rodgers coming back in, because he is a bit of a Marmite figure amongst some of our own support. My question to you is, obviously, he was successful the first time around. He's came back in. The style looks like it's going to be pretty similar to how he set up the first time around. Has he got a bit complacent, do you think, Brendan Rodgers coming back in here? Because we've seen it before when, players have came in, from England and come up and they think it's going to be a bit of a doddle. Brendan Rodgers obviously has proven that he found it very straightforward domestically the first time around. Do you think there's an element of complacency in how Brendan's set up, or do you feel most of this blame all lies with the players?
I'm just quickly, I'm not suggesting that we do drop him. I'm just saying that there's a case for dropping Callum McGregor. If you're going just on form and you forget he has a yellow strap on his arm, you would suggest that he's probably the player on the poorest form in the Celtic squad just now. But if he's been marked out of the game by a St Johnstone player on £800 a week, then he's not the captain that Celtic need. It's just another one just replying to that message. No, I think, listen, Brendan Rodgers says a lot of things in the public, and he's clever in what he says. He said the Celtic players aren't breaking the lines fast enough, they're not picking the right passes fast enough. That tells me that the message is getting put to them, but they're making the wrong decisions. But even if you back up the fact that Brendan Rodgers is to blame so far, listen, it doesn't excuse Matt really trying to side fit it in for 4 yards out a couple of times the other day there. We're making bad decisions on the park, Jono. I think the players are getting away with murder just now. You said that and you're right, there was a lot of booze. But we've all seen it. But this is the thing. It happens at most clubs. It's like the Hibs game the other day. They sacked their manager. I tell you, I can categorically tell you just now that see every fan that was booing the players, booing at full time, they've been booing the manager. The attention goes away for the players, and I think sometimes they get away with murder. As a system suiting the players, no, I don't think it is, John. I said this last season and 2 years ago. When this guy goes, he's got to leave us with a group of players that is suited to one system. An attacking formation is exciting football. Are they going to adapt? I think it's going to take time. But see if we start bringing in 3 or 4 players we need a Scott Sinclair type. I think Jota would have been ideal in this situation. I thought Jota might not fit into Celtic's system just now, but maybe he's the kind of guy we need. Somebody who can, in a defensive sort of slow build-up play, hit on the attack quickly. Just catch teams out quickly, you know what I mean? And maybe we need something like that, and maybe that's what Podence and Palma's all about, you know what I mean? Because I've watched the clips and it seems to be like they're very pacey, direct players, and he's no picked the players for by accident. I mean, these players that are coming in are probably more profile to Brendan Rodgers and the guys we've seen already coming in. And you're right, I don't think the players are suited. I mean, for me, Cal McGregor's sitting far too deep. He's not number 6, he's a number 8. We've seen that even under Andy was getting played in certain matches. You're saying he's sitting too deep. But I think the biggest problem in midfield is O'Reilly and Turnbull together is just an absolute disaster waiting to happen. I think if you got Hatate on form, the midfield might look a bit more dynamic.
Yep.
But I'm just not buying any excuses that Cal McGregor's getting man-marked off a guy at St Johnstone. I'm sorry, if you're not able to shake that off, what chance have we got at the Champions League? What sort of Celtic captain are you? I understand he's not getting the cover for some players. But do you know something? He's a captain. He's supposed to be the one that stands above everybody else. He's supposed to be the leader amongst men. You look at Scott Brown in places like Ibrox and things like that. When it was gone shit, that guy would stand up, mate. He would get in amongst the right nitty gritty tackles. Sometimes he would make a bad challenge. Sometimes he would just get in the referee's face or a player's face. Use all the tactics he's got in his book. I don't see that in that Cal McGregor. I just think sometimes he's a shrinking violet, mate. And I'm not. This isn't a show, but I know I've mentioned him a few times. But I think if you're going to slag the leader after the park, slag the leader on it. I just feel like Brendan Rodgers for the last week and a half has just took so much stick, justified or no. But the players, nobody's mentioned. You get the odd quip about Maeda not being good enough, for the odd quip about Abada, but nobody's focusing on the real problem. See if there's a message not getting. If these are professionals good enough to come to Celtic and they're not taking information off an EPL level manager, then the players have got to look at themselves in the mirror. Here, Jono. Yep. These guys have played in the Champions League, a lot of them. Played in Europe. They've guys that are on 20 grand a week, 25 grand a week internationals. See if a manager's giving you information that works, that does work. And I don't think it's complacency. The only people that are being complacent here, I think, is the board. But there's also a bit of that amongst the players as well, because we were sitting against Kilmarnock last week in injury time, and we're passing the balls sideways and backwards. And I don't see that. But you look at any level of football, I don't think the message is take your time at all costs. It'll be patient, wait for the gaps, but fling the ball up when you have to fling the ball up. I don't think Brendan Rodgers would say to somebody with half a minute to go, play the ball back to Joe Hart. I think he'd say, look for the gaps, play it long if you have to. Football's all about winning games, and he said that. I think he will get it right, but you can't get it right at any level in football unless the players are bought in. And I think there's a disconnect between the messages getting brought across to the players and the players taking that information in and working on it, Jono. And you know, if one thing we do tonight on this pod is at least highlight the fact that some of our players are getting away murdered just now. Then I think we've done our job, because online on other podcasts it's just Rodgers bashing, you know what I mean, and that's up to them. They've all got their own axe to grind. But I tell you something, Brendan Rodgers didn't say to Cal McGregor, Cal, not today, see how you get the ball, lose it. O'Reilly, you've seen your 3 yards out, put it at the bar. The Yanks seen your 4 yards out for the second week in a row, put it in the top tier of the stand. I mean, nobody's mentioning these things, you know what I mean? Poor decision making at key moments, lazy football at key moments, and passing the buck. That's Celtic summed up so far this season. And passing the buck, I think, is the biggest one, because the manager, I feel like the buck's getting passed to the board, which I think is correct. And I think the players are passing the buck to the manager, and the fans are just fucking angry at everybody except the players.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the players, because you know they have to be taking their fair share of the criticism for what's gone on thus far. You know, the bulk of the players that played, albeit not at full strength, are on the back of winning a treble last year. So you're not going to fool anyone in the Celtic support. You certainly shouldn't be fooling anyone in the Celtic support that you're incapable of beating St Johnstone at home, regardless of who's the manager. It could be fucking Willy Wonka could be the manager in the dugout, and we should still be able to beat St Johnstone at home, in my opinion, because they are that poor this season. It's not a difficult game to manage to win, but the players have to take their responsibility for that result. And there's quite clearly something going on with the players, and I know it was discussed on Sunday. We've had Haksabanovic come out with the statement on Instagram, pretty much complaining that he's not getting enough game time. When you read between the lines, that's how it read to me anyway. And then you've got a few other players that are on the fringes, like if your O's, and I know your favourite Burnaby was another one that was liking it. I don't know if that's then giving an indication as to what's potentially going on in the dressing room, Mark. And it seems like we've probably got a few bad eggs there that could possibly do with getting shipped out before this window closes. But I just wonder if that's perhaps, rubbing off on the other players. And again, perhaps it goes back to the likes of your Callum McGregor as the captain in the dressing room, who needs to take control of that situation and, grab them by the scruff of the neck and tell them you can't be saying that in public, and having that sort of outburst there. We do that sort of talking in-house. If you've got an issue, you either speak to your teammates, speak to Brendan Rodgers, but you don't go out into social media and then put it out. It's just like launching a grenade into an already full war zone at the minute, because it's all waiting to be kicked off amongst the Celtic support, because there is a feeling that we've started the season slowly. There is, whether we like it or not, a lot of doubts around whether we should be bringing Brendan Rodgers back. There is doubts about the style of play, and there's doubts about players' performances and whether they're actually playing for the manager at the minute. Do you think when you're seeing things like this going on, you're going to expect, a few of these players that have, obviously pretty much made their statement and pretty much backed Haksabanovic up? Would you be expecting Rodgers to take action and get a few of them out? I mean, I think Haksabanovic will almost certainly be gone, but will any of the others follow suit that also seem to be supportive of those comments?
I think the other one was Vata and Burnaby.
Vata, yes. Mm-hmm.
Burnaby, I'm not just saying this, I think Burnaby's probably the worst football player that's ever came into this country at any level. I think that guy would probably struggle to get a game for any Premier League team in Scotland. That's how bad I think that guy is. So these guys are going to feel a wee bit aggrieved at not getting the game time, but the fact of the matter is his ability is lacking. I think Vata, I think there was comments about Vata's attitude last season under Ange. People had mentioned towards the end of last season, people had talked about there's ability there, you know what I mean? And maybe there was something could be his attitude. If he's liking these photographs, I think that's a very public state. In fact, normally if you see a player put a photograph on, it could be it, you probably see the full squad like it. So that tells me that it was a conscious effort that players went, I'm not liking that photograph. That is just not on. If I like that, it's in the public. This isn't like the team's group chat here, where you can probably say what you want with freedom and feel safe. He knew what he was doing, Haksabanovic. To be quite honest with you, see, with the move, I'd put him in the reserves and just I'd put him in with the development team and just wear him out. Just give him no game time whatsoever. I don't care how desperate they get, just get rid of him. I think he's not only slapped Brendan Rodgers in the face, he's slapped every Celtic fan in the face. He's gave the media ammo against Celtic. He's gave the press in this country a copy against Celtic, and that's all they need is that wee small thing. He sparked some rumours at Celtic. I've got a wee bit of disconnect behind the scenes. I think we have got disconnect behind the scenes, Jono, and the players I think you mentioned there who are liking these photographs. It's all ones who aren't getting game time, but they don't deserve it. So I think that it's almost always the case that players aren't getting game time. There's a reason for it. And I remember I was at a Martin Neil night and he was talking about players chatting the door for, and I heard Rob Douglas say this before as well, chatting the door for game time, and they gave a few of them a start against Inverness Cali away from home, and they get beat, and they say to every man at full time, don't you ever chat my door again, anyone. He's got your chance tonight playing for Celtic, and he's getting fucked off of that mob, and I think that matters. See, it goes back to the excuse culture, because there's always another reason, too many changes, this, that, and the other. I think your individual performance matters, Jono. Even when a team's playing badly, you still get a responsibility to play well as an individual. Because not only are you earning a lot of money, you're getting a lot of backing with the fans who will give you time, but they need to see something. They need to see something in you, and that's just what the players were talking about. Haksabanovic, there was something there, but we always knew that he had the heart of a mouse, and his attitude was stinking. And I feel that the same with Burnaby. I know what, that's not bash the guy, but the first thing he did was drink driving, try to break into under 21 a 21's birthday party. Slept in for his first week's training, his first games, the very first game of the season. He slept in, Jono. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What sort of message does that show you for the respect he's got for Celtic, the manager, or its fans? It just says it all, mate. I mean, to sleep in at that time is just unacceptable, mate. You know what I mean? I don't care what anybody says. And my dad said to me, "Why didn't they wear the chat door on the way past the hotel?" I'd tell me the guy's probably not liked all that way. Nobody's thought, I better go and get him up. The bus has got to leave in 5 minutes. I just went back. You know what I mean? But these people they wear Celtic tracksuits and Celtic strips, but they're still men, still boys. You know what I mean? They don't like each other. Some of them they all go on well with each other, and less so with others. So there's probably there's personalities in that dressing room that folk don't like, who just happen to be in and amongst the squad. There's people in my work that I don't like, and vice versa.
Yep.
So you will get that at clubs at Celtic, especially at Celtic where they won some trophies. So there's probably a lot of big time Charlies there who probably think there's something, and they're not really. I think it was Brendan Rodgers said the last time, just because you get a Celtic tracksuit and a Gucci wash bag doesn't make you a Celtic player. And I think there's more to being a Celtic player than your performances sometimes. It's about your desire, your want, you know what I mean, and your want to improve, you want to show the fans every time you go in the park that you're good enough to be there, or you want to be there. And I don't think for a minute that any of the players mentioned have showed anything to Celtic fans to convince that they want us to be given any sort of argument to keep them at the club. I think if there's any players in amongst that group that are still there at the end of the window, I think it's because Celtic couldn't get them shipped out. I think a decision will probably be made right now already that the ones you mentioned are going to be to Jono, and it's probably up to the club now rather than the manager to find them somewhere to go, because forget about the wage bill. I don't think you want that cancer within the dressing room, because it spreads like wildfire.
It's a toxic culture, is what it comes down to, and you just need to remove that. Remove the weeds, I think, from the garden on this particular occasion. It goes back to my chess analogy. Some pawns sometimes have to be sacrificed, and that's all these players really are that we're talking about. They are pawns in the bigger picture of a game of chess. They aren't going to be the ones that are going to be doing the big moments over the course of the season. They're going to get you the big wins, against the likes of Rangers, or get you a big European result. And they're players we can do with getting off the books if it's going to be a case that they are influencing others that could potentially be important players for us this season. And I completely agree. I think there does need to be something done there with those players over the next couple of days. I'd be surprised if they're all gone, but I'll be interested to see exactly how Brendan chooses to handle the ones that remain post the window closing, as to how much of a punishment he will put on them. I suspect he will be pretty harsh on all of them, and rightfully so, if you ask me as well. But, on the same analogy of chess, we're looking for knights to ride in to really help us out over the next couple of days as well. The transfer window is coming towards a close. Me and Russell were always fairly confident, I would say, this month that the big business was always going to come towards the end of the window. We're now, looking at deadline closing on Friday. Still not much further forward with anything. It's not really looking like there's going to be a big name signing as of yet. If there is, Celtic have done a brilliant job of keeping them, under wraps. It's looking like Palma will get announced, but that might be kept back until deadline day now because he's struggling to get a flight into the country. You can read into that what you will. I'm sure the cynics amongst us might think that might be a ploy for Celtic to get one out on Twitter on deadline day to say that we've made, a signing, and, that'll be the one they keep for the end in case there's no other ones brought in, because we've seen that movie before. There's not many other players we've been linked with, though. I know Podence is continuing to do the rounds. We've seen Ronnie Edward from Peterborough linked today as a centre-back. 80 appearances for Peterborough. There's not much else to say. Rangers, I think, were potentially looking at him earlier in the window. And Mark, this is what it comes down to again here for me, as I'm trying to make sense of it all in my head. And I just feel like, Palma again was another one that Rangers were supposedly interested in. I'm wondering what number we're down to on our list here of potential buys, and whether these are actually ones that Brendan Rodgers has wanted, because I feel Rodgers will have had identified some of these players, but I'm not necessarily sure we're now on Rodgers' list anymore. Granted, Palma's stats look very, very strong. Again, though, I feel like this is one that could have possibly been done earlier in the window.
Yeah.
I don't know why we've done this so late. I don't feel like this is one of these marquee signings that we had to wait and find out what was going to be on the table for him. Why wasn't this done a month ago? And, you know, if there's any truth in any of the other ones that are doing the rounds, I can understand Podence potentially coming in at the end of the window and wanting to assess his options, and Celtic heckling over the transfer fee, because that's going to be quite a bit of money to spend. But I now do have a bit of concern over who we're looking at, you know, in terms of bringing in players on loan or whoever it may well be, that we're now, you know, pretty much at the bottom of the list, of the shopping list, and that Brendan's, you know, not been able to get his targets, which might not all be Celtic's fault, by the way. You know, Tierney, I think, was one they were going to look at, and, you know, Sociedad's came in and just put an end to that one. They were probably a bit unfortunate there. But certainly in terms of other big names, it's not looking like there's going to be any sort of marquee signing this window. Where do you feel we're at, Mark, in terms of what this board are going to be expected to do in the next few days, and what do you actually expect them to do off the back, you know, of another disappointing result, and bearing in mind we've got our most important game of the season coming up this Sunday?
Well, I think the board have won a watch here, Jono, because they've actually grounded Celtic fans doing that much that it's become almost fact that you don't expect anything anymore. We were into this window with the most money we've had in the bank any time in our history, with a manager who we all assumed would be back, a Champions League campaign that was already assured, and we've sold a player for 25 million, get 5 million for another, and 5 million for a manager. And we're now looking at players that Rangers tried to buy 5 weeks ago. Palma there was a bid in for Rangers in the beginning or middle of June, and it looks to me like it was shot by €1 million or something like that. So it just shows you that club were willing to do business if the price was right. I dare say the player would have took the transfer to Rangers if he was given the chance, for the exact same reason why he would come to Celtic. European football, chance of trophies, quite a bigger league for more money. But Celtic, I feel like Celtic have always had a plan to save money, save wages. Bring a player in the last week, you save 7 weeks' wages, you've saved 100 grand, 80 grand, whatever it's going to be. And it's I think the board have gambled. You mentioned Celtic might be missing out on targets. There's probably players signing for teams in the Championship and the lower half of the EPL just now that we didn't even know were on Rodgers' list. And they've been missed because Celtic are holding out. Because not every club acts the way Celtic does and decides to give a manager the winger who we're all sitting here the new thinking, let's just hope there's something for Sunday. Somebody comes in and just does something for Sunday. And then we're talking to like why the guys who were expecting to at least give something might not arrive in Scotland until Friday night. I mean, what chance is he going to have to turn up on Saturday to do prep work for Sunday for Ibrox? Okay, the season isn't all about Ibrox, but I can assure you that's when the first marker gets laid. We've already gave them a good chance at the League Cup. The first trophy of the season is an early marker for any team trying to wrestle back a championship, right? And if the Celtic board, I think, have played a blinder, Jono, because we've said at the start of the window, if you don't do it this year, you'll never do it. So see now, there's almost an angry expectation now that no matter what position we get ourselves into, whether it's qualifying, it's still going to be Beaton playing centre-back or a Cairney centre player. Whether it's qualifying is assured, we're not going to strengthen anyway. We'll just get... If ever there was a window... So we've changed managers, right? So this isn't a seamless transition. We've changed managers, right? We've lost probably a star man, or if not the star man, one of the key star men. We've lost a linchpin of this defensive unit that we had with Carter Vickers. Whether you like Starfelt or no, that was a key figure in the defence. I wasn't a big fan of the guy, but you can't argue with the stats that never lost a match. So we've lost our manager, our centre-back pairing, and our playmaker and out wide, who was so influential last season. We've replaced the manager. The defence still looks a bit higgledy-piggledy, but that's through bad luck. The wide areas haven't been touched at all, I don't think. And what we're looking at just now is we're looking at a Celtic board who are conditioning the fan base to lower their expectations because the board do nothing but lower our standards. There's no way whatsoever any team in their position would be sitting the 4 or 5 days of the window. It's Monday now, Jono. So Monday's over, basically, right? Yep. It's Monday now, right? We've still not got a left back to start against Rangers. We've still not got a left winger to start, a right winger to start, somebody to come in and replace either Turnbull or O'Reilly, because he had 2 days my tits in, and we've still not got a backup striker. We're playing games now without a backup striker. What's the idea if Kyogo gets injured during the week, we play Maeda through the middle, or try and get a loan from Man City for whoever scored 14 goals for the B team last season? Is this the idea? Go to the black book, go to the top drawer, do Dan, Mark Lawwell. Lawwell's already there, so you can score him off the list. He's already in the building. He can't phone himself. But this is what I was moaning about fucking 2 months ago, John, because I seen this coming. I think sometimes you become more angry when you're expecting it to happen, because deep down inside you're wanting Celtic to prove you're wrong. You're wanting Celtic to make an arse of you and buy the players. Podence, right? I can assure you right now, Wolves are having the hell out to this late in the window. They're wanting players in. They're struggling for money just now. They're in a bit of a mess now, right? See, if we put a bid in 5 weeks ago, it was left 5 weeks ago. They're no haggling with haggling with Southampton, haggling with Real Betis. There's no much action happening there, right? So it's Celtic have made a decision not to bid for this guy up to now. Celtic have said, no, we don't want to, we'd rather just hold off in case Man City need to get rid of a player, or we will hold off. We'll make you desperate to sell instead of us spending.
They're trying to get some money off him. I think that's what Celtic are doing, like usual.
So I don't think that there's been a meeting when Rodgers has come in and he's pinpointed the key targets, right? If no individuals, he's identified the areas, right? And I don't think he sat in that meeting and said to them, do you know what? No today. See Friday night before the window closes. I'll take them all in then for the game and for the league game on the Saturday or Sunday. No knowing that it's Rangers, but he's known for a long time that it's Rangers. I don't think he sat and said, you know what? I'll hold off for what I've got. You should buy in the players that's already on the conveyor belt coming in for Korea and like Con and all the rest of it. I don't think he sat and said to them, do you know what? It's a good idea. That sounds great. You tell me any football manager that wants less time to work with these players. This isn't a guy who's just took a winning team, his own team last season, changed nothing and supplementing the squad. This is a guy who has to bring in his own words, he said, no, it's first 11 players. Nobody can tell me that he's fought it's Celtic's best interest to go into a league, get into a weekend that's as important as this. It's psychological. They can go top of the league now. It's psychological and it is a marker, right? He's not said to the board that he's happy with this situation. So please stop that shit. Anybody who thinks it's been Rodgers' decision or Rodgers' idea to just leave it to the last minute, because 3 things can happen. You can lose your targets, right? They can come in too late for them to play in the first match, or you can have injuries in other positions that make that player know what to play. For instance, you're having to play somebody else and you need to change your system altogether because you've not got anybody else. Just say a McGregor drops out and you're having to play somebody else in there, which means you've not got that cover, so you can't play that guy. I don't think it works that way. You need game time for players. This is a group of players who are struggling just now to get into the system, and they've been there for 2 months with Rodgers. So what chances players that's coming in on Friday night got to come into this system and get up to speed when there's guys that's been there for 2 months? And that goes back to for me, the decision still to go to Japan, but we should be spending as much time organising the team, doing proper friendlies, less travelling, set the team up rather than stupid PR missions and stretching your tentacles into markets that's only going to be there for 2 or 3 years, like Nakamura. They just come and go, these markets. They don't live forever, these markets. They're very, the Japanese, if one of the players goes to Scunthorpe, they all watch Scunthorpe. They don't have any roots there, you know what I mean? So I thought it was a short-term money-making exercise that was no great benefit to the manager or the team. And I think it showed, John. I don't think there's teams in our league that have played that's played the League Cup group stages that I think are further on in the progression. into this season and what Celtic are, with all your resources, all your money, all your better players, and Rangers, who have got a rebuild of their own, changing 8-9 players, whatever it is, and they look to me so far to be further on that progression, Jono. And I don't understand how we've got to this position. The only people I can blame and point the finger at is the people who made the decisions not to bring the players in the first place. Because I can tell you right now, categorically, Brendan Rodgers has not told the board that he wanted to get the players at the last minute. That's been a decision made by the money men at Celtic for one way or another. But that's been a board decision, not a manager's decision.
Yeah, and I think we'll find that out over the next few days, that unless somebody comes in that we aren't expecting, which doesn't seem to be the case, that a lot of these players, that whoever they are going to be, and I fully expect there will be signings, by the way, on top of Palma. I would imagine there'll be another 2 or 3 at least on top of that. I'd like to think so anyway. But we might find out that a lot of these players that end up coming in were ones we could have potentially got 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. When you're talking obviously about the Asian market, I can understand, potentially looking to maximise the financial opportunities there, but that only works, Mark, if you're then going to reinvest that money in the team, and that's where Celtic constantly let themselves down, because taking advantage of those situations are all well and good, maybe not so much from a management's point of view in terms of managing the players, but if you're ending up getting that sort of money in from Asia, which, as you say, might not come around very often, then it's a wee Brucey bonus, but only if you're then going to go and actually spend that money to improve your team going forward. And it seems as if Celtic have got money coming in left, right and centre over the last couple of years, but the spend seems to be extremely low. We were talking and building this window up massively on this podcast, even before last season had even finished, as to how big a window it could potentially be with how much money Celtic have had in the coffers. And it's looking like, if last season was an underwhelming window, that this could be a total disastrous one, if you ask me, unless the next few days go the other way, and that's what makes it so interesting. But obviously Phil's going to be joining us in 5 minutes, and I do kind of want to have a wee quick look ahead to Ibrox, obviously, on Sunday. It's an interesting game to have on the back of what we've been dealing with in the last couple of weeks. But I'm looking at Rangers, Mark, and I wonder if Ibrox might be a game that might just suit Celtic a little bit better, and I'll tell you why. The first couple of games of the season we've managed to find ways to win, and granted, perhaps not as convincingly as some of us would have liked, but Bustalgia is a hard place to go. We found a way to win there. Ross County gave a good account of themselves, but we've seen them off at Celtic Park. But both of those teams had a go at Celtic, and Celtic then had the space in behind to exploit. Ibrox will be a similar sort of match in that way, that Rangers will come on the front foot. This won't be like Kilmarnock away. This won't be like the weekend there against St Johnstone, where the teams are going to camp in and ask Celtic to break them down. Rangers won't do that at Ibrox. And I don't know if that might help Celtic out slightly, because they're not going to be having to deal with a packed defence to have to try and break down. They will get more space and opportunities. I think obviously the big concern is going to be defensively. We could get exposed horrendously. For me, though, I think this might just be the best fixture to actually have when you're on the back of this sort of storm. Is it's going to be one that focuses the club, focuses the players, should really be focusing the board. Time will tell over the next few days, rather than potentially, playing like, for example, a Dundee or somebody at home where we think, we should be able to beat them anyway without needing to do much. I think Rangers has potentially came at a good time, famous last words, because no doubt we could end up getting humped and it could go the total other way come Sunday. But how do you feel about the sort of fixture coming up, Mark? Is it one that you'd have wanted to have now on the back of such poor form, or would you rather have had something that was a bit more of a gentle break and potentially for the new players that are going to arrive in the next few days?
Well, we've found out that Ross County and St Johnstone were two picks of the bunch, and we still struggled, mate. So I don't think we could have picked easier ones so far, but no, I think Rangers away is probably just the last thing we need just now, because there's a bit of a morale cruncher just now for the fans. They're feeling low, and I think a goal within the first 3 or 4 minutes at Ibrox, that's got a bit long afternoon, Jono. And they'll with that full stadium behind them, to get me started doing that. Although the very last clip of the intro of this podcast is Carl McGregor celebrating in front of the 800 fans that don't make a noise seemingly at Ibrox. But anyway, I think if an early goal with their fans behind them or all the rest of it. But similarly, an early goal for Celtic flattens their atmosphere, but they're still going to be behind them to a certain extent. You know what I mean? I just can't think of anything positive to say about Sunday, Jono. It's no like I would just lie to curry favour with anybody that's watching this or to try and get likes or anything like that. I'm trying to be as honest as I can, and I'm dreading Sunday. And maybe mate, it's Derek. He never ever messages me anything. No, it doesn't matter who we're playing. He's always confident. It could be European games, and he messaged me this morning saying, "Even I'm dreading this weekend, Mark. I know what's coming." You know what I mean? And sometimes you just get a perfect storm of pish, and this looks like it could be Jono. I mean, you mentioned the centre backs there, the defence there. I think you probably mean the centre backs more than anything. I think Greg Taylor's been awful, but he's defending still 6 out of 10 now at least. But Lager, Bielka, not seen much of him defend, but he's not very good at passing the ball. And Scales, you just can't go Ibrox with that guy. You just can't. So I'm going to assume that the Celtic are going to spend the next couple of days. Well, what if we get a guy in for Scunthorpe or Peterborough United, 23-year-old, to played 80 games at that level? He'll turn chalk white at Ibrox in the atmosphere and that pressure. Or maybe no, if you turn into Van Dijk. I just think you're setting yourself up for so many. There's the knowns and the unknowns, and the unknowns as a day. And when they're trying to, the unknowns as we don't know, but there's no unknowns. Who we're getting in, what's going to be happening, what's the referees, what's his game going to be like. There's things that we can control at Celtic. We can't control the parts, but we can control the level of play we've got, Jono. And the decision for the Celtic was made for us to get into this game. Nobody centre back, because I was unlucky with the injuries. The decision was made by us not to set ourselves up for this match. It was always going to be within the first 4 matches, Jono, this season, because it was the same last year. No, you're always going to get August, September, first week September, or normally August. They changed it once. That's when Diana died, I think, unless I'm wrong. So I don't see, where the forward thinking was there, mate. You know what I mean? And Stephen was in the chat earlier saying that you couldn't have cancelled the Japanese trip, and I wasn't suggesting cancelling it. I'm just saying we were set up for day one. When Rodgers was coming in, and we didn't have an ideal preparation. I don't think the trip to Ireland was needed either. I thought we could have had a couple of home matches. You know what I mean? You try to get a bond with the fans. Rodgers has had two matches. I know he had a Forest testimonial, but your hardcore fans, your hardcore fan base, that's more like the guy down the road with these 2 lanes who didn't go to the matches. So you know what I'm saying? And I don't think it's a chance to bond with the fans yet. I just feel like there's missed opportunities. You know what I mean? And I just feel like it's just it's like the situations are just reminiscent of COVID. Like we're our own worst nightmare. We've got players got to Spain to get their hole. We've got a player on Twitter, on Instagram, slagging the club or slagging the manager. You get players liking it. You get players turned up unfit. Players missing matches because they're sleeping in. This just looks like a bunch of players who are getting mollycoddled by the support and the excuses made for them, and the direction is just going towards the manager. But us as a club, we've set ourselves up for anything that comes our way Sunday, Jono, and I hope it's a good result. But we've set ourselves up for all these doubters. Like, you're probably normally positive, but you're on a date, Jono. You owe it to your own intelligence to realise that Celtic, chances are they're not going to come out of Ibrox with a smile on their face. You know what I mean? And I just don't understand why us as a club would make a decision consciously to set ourselves up to have especially the last couple of weeks when we've known it at Rugby Park. That was a turning point. We went, right, it's no working. We need something different there. And I'm looking at the manager here. This was the chance to go, right, this needs addressed. We've still got a week and a half, 2 weeks before the season starts for Celtic at Ibrox, really. And what did they do? They've done nothing. They sat in their horns. And if there's any Celtic fans spitting feathers, I totally understand them. I told you I'm not buying any of my merchandise this season. Yeah. I'm not going to the store. I'm not even online or nothing. And I bought my free kits and my season tickets. I'm not buying anything else, Jono. I buy tickets and that's it. And it means nothing to the club. But I can't sit here Monday to Sunday on this pod and slag the club for ripping the cunt out of me. Sorry for the language, but then go out and spend all my money on them. I just don't see the point in it, Jono. I really don't. And they get away with murder, and I'm not going to facilitate that.
No, it goes back to our chess analogy. I think the Celtic fans probably feel they've been rooked a wee bit with how this window has went, because there has been opportunities. They've, as I say, made so much money that the supporters have not been shy in putting their hands back into their pockets again this year. And it seems like we almost end up in the same situation every summer, where we're still, in this position towards the end of these windows, hoping that players, are going to arrive in. So I think from that point of view, it's going to be a very interesting few days. And I'll be very interested to see where we end up before this trip to Ibrox. And it's like you say, Mark, even if a few come in, then we might still have to just chuck them in at the deep end and see if they can sink or swim, which should be good fun. But what will also be good fun is sudden death tonight without Russell in attendance. So I might actually have some competition. I might have some competition. Welcome aboard, Phil. How's it going?
Not bad, mate. Busy night in the comments tonight. My fingers are worn out for clicking so many comments. It is manic tonight. 353 watching live right now. Yowza.
Monday Club record, I think.
That is, by the way, it is a very busy bus tonight. A lot of people, a lot of things to say. So, we thank you all for tuning in and viewing this fine Monday night here. We're glad to have you with us on this adventure. But yes, sudden death. We still go on with sudden death, regardless if Russell's not here tonight. Because funny enough, Jonathan, you opened the show by talking about, do you know that the first 5 minutes of this show didn't go out live? It was broadcasting, but for whatever reason, StreamYard glitched out. So people were like, where's the show? What's happening?
I'm joking.
All they really missed was you didn't do your Hugh Keevins impression anyway, so they didn't miss that. And you just did all that good stuff. But yeah, Jonathan did mention at the very start, last week, he made a joke about, Russell will be substituting other people in to take his place on sudden death. And funny enough, here we are tonight, and Russell has had somebody substitute in for him tonight. So, yeah, Mark, but we're just going to play it for the banter tonight. There's no points on the line. It's just really for the entertainment purposes. We thought, let's try and keep it going, lift the spirits at the end of the show, a wee bit of sudden death. So, yeah.
Chance for me to actually have a worthy opponent for once. I'm looking forward to this.
He's still talking trash. Well, Russell, I'm sure Russell's lurking somewhere in the live chat just now, listening in.
He'll do nothing. He'll be too busy preparing for the derby at the weekend before he speaks to me again on this pod.
Well,
could be a horrible dissection next Monday coming up on that. Hopefully not.
Well, will for anyone that is new and is because we've got a lot of viewers tonight. In case you've not seen this part of the show, on the Monday Club we just do a wee quiz to end the show, a wee penalty shootout style competition between the brothers boys. Where it's just like I've got a question, multiple answers. They get 5 shots each, and obviously give me a right answer, score a goal. Wrong answer, they miss. And at the moment, the scoreboard is currently reads 4-1. Jonathan, he won last season's one as well overall. So Jonathan's in a pretty good place right now. But as I say, tonight, there's no points on the line. We're just doing it for the fun, really, just to keep it going. So, I mean, you can talk trash to each other if you want at this point. I'll set up all the estate.
I respect him too much, mate. That's doing all right.
So do I. I think, as I said before we went on air, I think Marc Cairney's got a 100% record in quizzes. So this is me just punching a couple of weight classes above my normal level to see if I can actually compete with the best, because I'm fed up of just competing with the juniors that I usually deal with every Monday.
All respect.
Too kind, Jono. Too kind. Thank you, mate.
So, of course, guys, you mind to put your comments off. If you've got them live stream, so make sure that they are off with no help here for this one. Okay, so let's see. We Jonathan, you won last week.
Mark's a guest. He can choose whether he wants to go first.
Mark, you're a guest tonight, and we're just doing it for the partner anyway. So, do you want to go first, or do you want to go second and be entitled to a clue / riddle / hint, whatever it is?
No, I'm a gentleman, so I'll let Jono go first, mate. I'm happy with that.
Okay, Jonathan will go first then, and say Mark, at any point you have got a clue, you're allowed to cash in, but as we've seen, it's not always a guaranteed goal with that one, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so tonight's one is not strictly about Celtic, but you can use Celtic in your rationale, because it's a general Scottish football related question, guys. So Celtic you can use for your answers. So with exception of Celtic, can you name any team who has been in a Scottish Cup or Scottish League Cup final this century? there are 18 teams, say outside the Celtic, 18 other teams have been in a major Scottish final, either the Scottish Cup or the Scottish League Cup this century. Just give me any names.
I shall start us off with Hibs.
Yeah, Hibernian is indeed a correct answer.
I will go Falkirk.
Falkirk is a correct answer. Well, in Mark.
I shall go for Hearts.
Yeah, Jambo's correct.
Inverness, Calais Thistle.
Yeah, indeed, Inverness, yeah.
I shall go for Dundee United.
Dundee United is correct, yes.
Motherwell.
Well, yep.
Dunfermline.
Dunfermline, indeed, yep, they are correct too.
Kilmarnock.
And Kelly is indeed correct, yep. 4 each after 4 shots.
Livingston.
Yeah, Livingston, they've been in a couple of finals.
St Mirren.
And so have St. I don't know, these are flying, guys. That's 5 each after 5. So we'll do a maximum again of 5 more guesses. And we might need to use a tiebreaker tonight. Maybe we'll get there. But no, we've got a maximum of 5 more to go.
I think we might get all these, to be honest. Aberdeen.
Aberdeen is correct, yep.
St Johnstone.
Johnstone, yes. Very successful this century, St Johnstone in cup finals, as it turns out, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say them. I didn't really want to. I was hoping Mark would say them. I think he was hoping I would say them. Rangers.
I've got to admire the commitment by the two of you to not say them. Fair play to you. So, yeah, that's a correct answer. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, only 5 answers left, guys. You're doing well.
That's one I'm pretty sure about. I think Ross County. Do they know?
Ross County is correct as well. Yes,
Ross County.
4 left.
Right down to the business end now on this.
Oh, yes. Fairgate time.
Dundee.
Correct. 2003 Scottish Cup finalists. Yep. Yeah.
Rangers won a treble by beating them, I remember it.
Yeah. 3 left. Oof.
This one, I think they end up getting a wee stint in Europe because of Queen of the South.
You're spot on. Right. And incredibly, Mark, you're still entitled to a clue that you've not even taken yet, but Queen of the South is correct. So there's only 2 left, guys. Only 2. Can you get all of them?
I feel like I might be a bit optimistic, so I'm struggling now. There's a team that got close.
This one's difficult, mate. This one's difficult.
I've got a team that I think got close, but I don't know if they were in one. I'm going to say Ayr United.
Fair play. Ayr United is correct. 2002 League Cup final. Mark, there is 1 answer left. You have to get it to win the paddle point.
I'll take a clue.
Good time to cash in.
Sorry, Jono.
A good place to elope to.
Oh, really? I
know what it is.
Hearts beat them, didn't they, Gretna?
Gretna, you've got all of them. Well done. Well done, boys. So we need to do the tiebreaker. We need to do the tiebreaker question.
Tiebreaker, mate. It's going to be like Russell's birthday or something like that, because John will know that. You know, I mean, I don't use a like.
No. It's nothing like that at all. It's basically guess the number of goals. I've got a player here that I've picked from the Celtic archives. And it's a case of you're going to guess a number of goals, whoever gets closest is the winner. So, according to the CelticWiki.com, how many goals did Paul Lambert score in his Celtic career in all competitions from 1997 to 2005?
Well, do we say it together or do we write it down and show?
No. Jonathan, you were going first there.
I'll go first, that's fine. I didn't mind going first. I'm just having a wee thought in my head.
Lambert, all competitions, how many goals did he score?
I'm not sure about that many, I don't know. I'm going to say 35.
Okay. And Mark?
I wrote down 31.
31. Well, the twos are grossly over, so in this case I have to go with whoever's closest. In this case, it is Mark. It's only 19. 19 he scored. 14 league goals, 1 Scottish Cup, 2
I
League
bet 19
Cup,
were all belters though.
and 2 European goals.
Collector's items, hold them a bit.
Aye, so Mark, you win the paddle point, mate. You're still undefeated in quizzes, as was pointed out. So well done, mate. Well done.
That was good. But that was actually, I think, see that question. I think if you asked that in a pub, me and John were pretty sober. I'm just thinking, well, I think you're lucky to get the answers out of the full pub. So we did well there, Jono, didn't we?
I think we did do pretty well. They were obviously like our cup finals.
To get things like Queen of the South and all that, fair play to you, man. Well done. So,
the only one that I wouldn't have got was, he mentioned Ayr United. I wouldn't have got that one. The rest, I think,
that was a tough one.
That was a bit of a guess.
I think that was a good one.
That was a good one. I mean, Gretna. I totally forgot about Gretna until you said
Gretna too,
oh yeah, Gretna. I forgot about them.
There you go, Mark. When you get you on full time in place, Russell, you've actually beat Jonathan. You've actually beat him. There you go, first person.
Here we go.
First one to be
first beat it since like the first day of the season, I think.
Really well.
Good quiz, guys.
You did say last week that Russell might try and bring in me to give him a wee bit.
Transfer window's still open, Mark.
He's not getting the point, Jono. It's friendly.
It can be bought. It can be bought, Mark. He'll be tapping you up. He'll be trying to buy you up next few days.
He's tried a few things. He's tried it. He knows I'm going to. He knows I'm going to axe him, so he's trying to get me to stay. You know what I mean?
Bloody hell! Disharmony on the bus as well.
Oh God!
That was good.
Yeah. But that
was really good. Really good. I really enjoyed that, Phil. Thanks for that. It was a really good quiz. But on that note, I think that's us pretty much done. Be a lot of shows coming up over the next couple of nights, I would imagine. Is Bustalgia that back this week, Phil?
Yeah, I'll be doing that on Wednesday night. I don't know if the subject will go down too well because it's about the transfer window. I'm going to do a show on deadline day, late signings, talking about a few memories, some good, some bad, somewhere in the middle. So I'll do that on Wednesday night. Say we'll see how that goes down, because I know that, as we saw tonight with the comments, very topical right now. So yeah, I'll do that on Wednesday. We'll have the TNF, obviously. That'll be a reaction as well to the European draw.
Champions League draw, yes.
God. And then Friday night, we're doing that Friday feeling now, and me and David have got some plans for that, because it's going to be deadline
Friday
night.
Sinking feeling, because it's deadline day.
It's got that sinking feeling, mate. It depends. We'll gauge the waters at that point. We'll see if it's going to be out. If it seems like it's going to be a quiet one, there's probably no point. But if it looks like it's going to be pretty lively, we might stay on a bit longer than the usual hour we've been doing for the last few weeks. But yeah, that's the plan. And of course, we get Tuesday tomorrow, so there might even be Tuesday ticket tomorrow as well. Yeah, so there's potential for a show every night this week. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah. And I know Russell's obviously keeping an eye on things as they go along as well. So you never know what might pop up over the week as stories develop, because we are hoping and praying for some big things. But yeah, that caps off another Monday Club. Congratulations to Mark on his win tonight. Russell, looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.
Cheers, guys.